Good evening and welcome to episode 3 of the Stano Show. This is my third week of the broadcast, and I am Stano, and I'm hoping that a lot of you have watched my first episode of my introduction of why I like movies, and last week I started with Star Wars, all the Star Wars movies, and I'm throwing some individual videos out there about Star Wars. But this week, because we're close to Memorial Day, we are going to talk about Memorial Day movies, Memorial Day films. I keep saying movies, Memorial Day films. And this is what people watch during Memorial Day. Films that, honor our veterans, honor the holiday weekend, if you want to call it a holiday weekend. To everybody, it is a holiday. But this is movies or films that are for that weekend. And I'm going to go through in the beginning here a few films that there are a lot of films out there for Memorial Day, right? To honor our veterans, a lot. But I'm just going to go through a few in the beginning, and then I'm going to go into one of these movies that I feel that people should watch, give you my insights on it, give you my behind-the-scenes thoughts, the actors, whatnot. And so let's start. So Memorial Day, as I said, is in honor of our veterans, and you see a lot of war movies. You see a lot of films about depicting certain parts of our, our history, World War I, World War II, different types of wars overseas. But, as everybody knows, a big one today is Saving Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan is a huge, huge movie that everybody watches during the Memorial Day weekend. And bear with me a second. I'm trying to find my slides here. I might have lost my slides. Here they are. Okay. So I'm on my slides so I can move them back and forth. Little, I use my one hand to move the slides and my other hand is free. So you'll see me moving around. But, and again, in the beginning of these live streams, I get nervous, but once I'm on a roll, you can't stop me. I could probably talk for hours, but then I get a little hoarse at the end. But anyway, Saving Private Ryan, we all know, is a powerful movie. Well, what a lot of people don't know, what surprised me when I saw Saving Private Ryan was how many cameos were in the movie in the beginning. Go back and watch it. You'll see a lot of cameos, like Ted Danson. He's in it, right? But Saving Private Ryan is a strong, powerful movie about Normandy, the storming the beaches, and then finding Private Ryan. And we all know there's one scene in that movie that really gets me when the kid gets the knife in the heart. Every time that's on, I have to turn it off because I can't stand watching that. I turn the channel and then I come back when that scene's over. So another movie is Flags of Our Father. And to be honest with you, and I'm honest here on this channel, I've never seen this movie. My father did, and he liked it a lot. So in honor of my father, I put this out there because he really liked this movie. This was something that he wanted to see, and he was able to see it, and he liked it. But I have seen this on cable, and I've seen it on streaming services. I should go and watch this because I saw a few scenes and I thought it was really, really good. And I see Amanda's on here. She's a great movie, loved the cast. And she's talking about love Saving Private Ryan. And again, if you have any comments, please leave a comment in the chat. Hopefully, if I see it, I'll comment. I'll read it and we'll talk about it. So another one is Black Hawk Down. Very powerful film. Very powerful film. All true to this in that movie. Black Hawk Down is a very, very, very good movie. How they were stuck in that area and they had to get out, and they were being bombarded with fire the whole time in that movie. And you see a lot of death in that movie. A lot of bullet shots too. Really good movie. And oh God, Apocalypse Now. Very strange. Marlon Brando. The Redux is really longer. If you ever get the chance to watch a behind the scenes of it, it's really good. Robert Duvall, who I think should have got an Oscar for his portrayal, he was hardly in it, but awesome, 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 awesome. Robert Duvall in that movie. Martin Sheen, Lawrence Fishburne, as a young Lawrence Fishburne, he was one of the guys on the boat. Lawrence Fishburne. So moving on here, The Longest Day, and I don't have a lot of movies in here that are old movies like black and white movies, but The Longest Day, this was I even forget the year this came out, but this was a really good movie, an all-star cast, really good war movie. And then you have Platoon, very powerful movie, scene about the Vietnam War. That was just on recently, and I watched it. Just what depicting what those troops did there and what they had to go through was just a lot for them in that movie. William Dafoe, awesome in that movie. Charlie Sheen, Tom Berenger. There's a lot of Matt Dillon's brother. I can't remember his first name. Chris Dillon, it might be. He was really, really, really good. And then we have a recent one, and a lot of people I've talked to about this movie, Greyhound with Tom Hanks. It was on Apple TV Plus. A lot of people are like, it was a lot of special effects. It was all green screen. But go back and watch that movie. Listen to it in surround sound. It's really good. Like them getting these boats across the Atlantic or wherever they were, I forget, to get the escort these ships over. And the German submarines were bombarding these ships. And they were dodging the torpedoes. Really, really good movie. Really good movie. And then we have The Great Escape with one of my favorite actors, Steve McQueen. Just a great, great, great movie about them being in the camp and they escape. And Steve McQueen, very funny in it. There were some serious moments in it, but The Great Escape, another great movie. Steve McQueen on his motorcycle. And then we have Pearl Harbor. Okay. Pearl Harbor, to me, good movie. Looking back at it, it came out after Titanic. To me, it was the World War II Titanic movie. You had the love story in it. My father saw this, and he said, nah, didn't like it. Because, like, some of the action scenes in it were kind of, like, far-fetched, like, really didn't happen. Some did. Not saying all of it was fake, but some of the fighting scenes in that weren't really real, like didn't really happen in real life. And it was a good story, don't get me not, but the action sequences were good on the bombing of Pearl Harbor, but yeah, it was okay. And one movie I didn't put down on here was Dunkirk. I love Christopher Nolan movies, and Dunkirk was really good. And my father hated Dunkirk. He just didn't like, I guess because he didn't like Christopher Nolan, the way he depicted the Dunkirk story and how it just was out of sequence. My father didn't like that. I did. I thought it was really good. Anything Christopher Nolan does, I think, is great. So back to Saving Private Ryan. But the movie I want to talk about that really gets to me every time, and I just recently were down in the Carolinas last year, was Glory, about the Civil War, starring the great Denzel Washington, the great Morgan Freeman, Matthew Broderick, Gary Ellis, Andrew Bauer, who we just lost, great actor. Then you have Jimmy Kennedy, who was in it, who was one of the in the Color Regiment, and this is about the 54th. The 54th Troops Color Regiment in the Civil War. This movie, to me, the music, and we'll get into that, the acting, the scenes. If you get a chance, to me, this is a movie for Memorial Day that I love. So let's get into it. The movie opens up, Antietam in Maryland, and actually last year I was able to go to Antietam during one of the Civil War places. A great, great place to go, and just going to some of these Civil War places is just amazing to see. And if you take a guided tour, I recommend if you do the National Park Service. The National Park Service has an app, and they have a guided tour you can take, and you go to each of the numbers spots, and then they tell you a whole story of what happened in those battles. And Antietam, and I hope I'm saying this right, there was more deaths in Antietam than there was in Gettysburg. And it was just, that was a great place to go to. And just like I said, a lot of these Civil War places, to just see the mass fields that were there, and just thinking about all the bodies that were probably laying on these fields after these wars. And to me, this was a senseless war, the Civil War, right? Americans fighting Americans. To me, it's sad. But this movie starts off in Antietam. Uh, it starts off in, you see Matthew Broderick's character, Shaw. He gets injured in this battle, and then after the battle, he looks around and sees the massive deaths that happened during this number of days, and he's injured in the neck, and he goes home for leave. And give me 1 second here. He goes home, and he's asked to take charge of the 54th Regiment of colored troops, and he takes it on. And he brings in his friend, who's played by Carrie Ellis, who great actor. Princess Bride, great movie. He plays his one of his majors in the regiment, and he asked him to come on with him, and so they agree. They go on, and in the beginning too, going back to when Matthew Broderick here is injured, Morgan Freeman. He plays John. I think his name was I'm looking here. John Rawlins, and he dug the bodies. He dug the graves of all the dead troops, and he thought he would kick the bodies in the scenes. And in this scene, and he sees Matthew Broderick laying on the ground. He kicks him, and he's alive. And he asks him if he's okay, sir. Well, then he ends up in the 54th Regiment. Morgan Freeman's character. So he asks his friend to join him in this challenge, and he accepts. And then they end in Redville Camp, Massachusetts, where this is where they're training the color regiment to be troops. And there was a lot going on. They wanted to have this color regiment. They weren't treated right. They weren't given their clothing. They weren't given their boots, their guns right away. The sergeants and the drill sergeants were really treating them badly. And Matthew Broderick let them do this because he was trying to prove that he could bring these troops to be pure soldiers, right? So they go through their training. This is where we meet Denzel Washington's character, which we know Denzel Washington won an Academy Award for. He played Trip, and Denzel Washington just powerful in this movie. And I'll talk about it a little bit, but he was a very tough person. He treated in the tent all the people in the tent with him. Morgan Freeman's character, Andrew Byram, Jimmy Kennedy's character. He treated them like crap. Like he just didn't care about them, didn't care about anybody but himself. And he had the feeling that they weren't going to allow them to fight. They were just going to be slaves here in this regiment as they were before they were called up or volunteered to be soldiers. So again, Denzel Washington just powerful in this movie, just powerful. And you see here the drill sergeant. This is Jimmy Kennedy's character, who was he was excellent in this movie, but giving them a hard time. This sergeant, drill sergeant, just putting them through the reins of trying to make them troops, and he really was really tough on them the whole time. Actually beating some of them with their guns to make them tough. So we move on, and in this scene, the night before, they were told that if they were a part of this, they would be hung. If they left, they would become slaves again. The sergeants, the majors, and all, they would be. I think they would get in trouble for all this as well. So the next day, Matthew Broderick's character Shaw comes out and says, "How many left? How many of our majors and sergeants left?" And they all stayed. Nobody left. They wanted to move on to show that, to me, to show that they were not quitters, right? And you know, none of us are quitters, right? So these men, God bless them, showed that they weren't quitters, and they all stayed. And then again, they went through a hell of a lot of training. And in this scene, Jimmy Kennedy's character is really good at a shot, and they were just goofing off shooting. And Matthew Broderick's character Shaw comes over and says that they could get 3 shots off in a minute. So he shows him how he could shoot the gun and shoot from far away and hit a target. So he asks him to reload his gun. And and I just remember the scene. He just says faster, faster, and then in the background he starts firing his gun off to show him that you have to be faster loading your weapon and shoot off 3 good shots in a minute. And he couldn't do it. So he tells his friend Carrie Ellis that train them well, because he was treating them like they weren't going to go anywhere either in this whole 54th Squadron. They weren't going anywhere. They were just going to be a nothing set of troops. So he told them, train them to be the best. And, him and Matthew Broderick and Carrie Ellis get in arguments about this. And you'll see that if you go back and watch the movie. In this scene, like I said earlier, and this is very powerful, Denzel Washington's talking about a woman who there's a field not far away, and Denzel Washington's talking about somebody who has biscuits and gravy. I think he's talking about food and wants to leave the camp, and if he leaves, they get in trouble. But he does leave, but he wasn't leaving for biscuits and gravy. He was leaving to find himself some shoes, because they weren't giving these color regiment men, they weren't giving them boots or uniforms or anything. They were treating them like crap. And he was going to just find himself a pair of shoes, because his feet were raw to the bone from the shoes he had. And in this scene, he gets whipped for leaving the camp. And when he takes his shirt off, it's sad. You could see where he was whipped. It is a sad moment that these men went through this. You could see all the whippings he went through. And in this scene, you see Denzel Washington drop a tear there, and it's a powerful scene, because as he's getting whipped, you can see the eyes fill up, and then you see that one tear drop, and you can just feel the pain that he has getting hit by the whip. But you also feel the pain that these men have gone through. Not just men, but women have gone through slavery at this time, and they were given this chance to be these troops, and he's back to being whipped, and he's showing his sadness here. This is just such a powerful scene, and well-deserved Oscar here for Denzel Washington. So at that point, Morgan Freeman tells Matthew Broderick he was looking for shoes. So Matthew Broderick goes to the man who's in charge of all the equipment and everything, and knows that he's holding back on him. And he threatens him. And this scene, you can see Morgan Freeman comes with the shoes for the men, and at that time, Denzel Washington's character is in recovery, and Matthew Broderick knows he did a wrong thing by getting him whipped, but he was following orders, and he goes and checks on Denzel Washington constantly as he's recovering from his wounds from the whippings. But in this scene, you see that he gets they're getting their shoes here, and eventually they get their uniforms. So then this another one. So these men, these troops were paid $13 a month. $13 a month, but because they were a color regiment, they were only going to get $10 a month. Think about that. Think about that right now. $10. They were treated like crap, right? So in this scene, Denzel Washington says, "Take your slave money," right? Take your slave money, right? And he tells them to tear it up. And I couldn't get a good shot, but he's looking at Matthew Broderick and he's saying, "Tear it up, tear it up, tear it up," and they all tear it up. So then Matthew Broderick, and I think I have a shot here. Matthew Broderick says, "If you men will not take pay, well, none of us will." So including Matthew Broderick, to show that he is for them, he said, "I will not take pay, and none of the other regiment will." And I see Amanda saying they're horrible. Yes, it is horrible. Horrible. But they all raised their guns. They all let's hear for the colonel. And very, very, very powerful scene. And I'm telling you, you've not seen this movie, I recommend watching it, because there's a lot there that makes you think about this country and where we are today, and where we were back then. So they get their uniforms. They end up in Beaufort, South Carolina, and they were thinking, "Oh, we're going to be part of of the war now." Well, they ended up down there with a colonel played by I can't remember his name. I'm trying to look it up here, but all he did, he had a color regiment. He was played by Cliff DeYoung. He played James M. Montgomery, and he had a colored regiment, and all he did was let these guys tear up the town and torch some of the towns and steal everything out of the houses. And he said, "Look, at these men they're never going to be troops. They're not going to, look at them. Look at how they are. You think these men could be soldiers?" And Matthew Broderick, who told Matthew Broderick to have the 54th torch the town. And Matthew Broderick said, "No, I wouldn't do it." And he says, "If you do this, I'll put you up on charges." So Matthew Broderick orders the 54th to torch this town, which they knew was wrong as well. So Matthew Broderick goes to the head of down there and says to him, played by Bob Gurton, he played General Charles Garrison Harker, and told him that he would go to the war party and tell them what they're doing down here in the South. Just stealing and burning down these villages and these people's homes, and just keeping all this stuff. And he ends up getting out of there, and they're able to fight in the war. And in this scene, you'll see this is where they were torching up, and they were just stealing everything. And Matthew Broderick didn't like that, so he got out of there. He got his troops out of there. He got the 54th out of there, and they were going to fight. So in this scene, another powerful scene, this is when Denzel Washington's character, Trip, actually starts changing. He almost gets a fight with Andrew Brower's character. He plays Thomas Searlers. And he's actually like a butler for Matthew Broderick's character at his home, Shaw's home. And he's going to get in a fight with him, and Morgan Freeman breaks it up and slaps Denzel Washington in the face, and he talks about how, you know, he's seen the dead bodies in all these wars. He buried them, men fighting like men. And I could tell you, after watching this scene again, why Morgan Freeman did not get an Oscar for this movie, and they waited until Million Dollar Baby for him to get an Oscar, to me is wrong. I think Morgan Freeman should have at least, because you know why? Morgan Freeman was still new in Hollywood with bringing out movies, in my opinion. But I feel that he should have got an Oscar for this, at least got nominated. I think I don't know if he was nominated. If you do know if he was nominated, leave a comment below. Leave a comment in the chat. But this is a very powerful scene. And then at this point, Denzel Washington's character he starts to change after this speech given by Morgan Freeman. So they go to James Island, South Carolina, in July 16th, 1863. And they have their first battle. And it's kind of in the scene. It's in the woods. I'm not saying it's pretty cool, but the troops come in, and they shoot them off their horses, and then all of a sudden the walking men come in, and you see how barbaric this was. I mean, you saw Braveheart with Mel Gibson, but these guys just like stand in a line, and they just fire at each other, and then they just go at each other with bayonets. So this is when they first opened fire, and this is really their first battle here you see in the movie. And they actually do win, but they had a lot of casualties. All the main characters are still alive in the movie. I don't want to give it away, but they're all still alive, but a lot of them get wounded. So then let me just go back. So before this scene, there's a white man who gets in an argument with Morgan Freeman's character. So Carrie Ellis comes over and sees them fighting. And Carrie Ellis's character says to the white man, "I'm going to put you up on charges." And Morgan Freeman says, "Oh, you don't need to do that, sir. This was just a fight between soldiers." And the white man looks at him and, like, almost in a thank you, but doesn't say thank you. Almost in a thank you. You just saved me from being put up on charges. And charges back then were probably, you go to jail. Who knows, right? What the charges would have been back then. But later on, which now that they had their first battle, and they're very tired, they haven't slept in days. The biggest battle for them, which ended a lot of their lives, all their lives, was the Battle of Fort Wagner. And personally, I last year was in the Carolinas, and I went to Fort Sumter, which they say started the Civil War, where the first shots were rang out, the Civil War. And I highly recommend, if you're down in the Carolinas, in Charleston, take the boat over to Fort Sumter. And actually, if you go to my other channel, Mr. Stan 913, you can see where Dorothy and I actually took the ferry over to the fort, and it was right after a hurricane. So you'll see that too. We were the first there after a hurricane, and you get to see this fort. But you see what the fort is today. It's not what it was back then. The walls were almost, 25 feet high. They're actually smaller now, I think. But when we were there, Dorothy was able to raise the American flag on the fort. And what really got me, when the National Park Service person pointed out that Fort Wagner was right across, the way there. You could see the land where Fort Wagner was. The fort's not there anymore. But the first thoughts that came to me were Gory, the movie, because in this scene coming up is where they have to take Fort Wagner, and Matthew Broderick Shaw, his character, says the 54th would be honored to lead this. And they hadn't slept in days. So he said, you should have seen us battle. It was a hell of a battle, and they were ready. So that night, they sing to God. I just remember they sing this gospel song, which is very powerful. They all get a chance to make a speech. Morgan Freeman makes a speech. Denzel Washington, this is where he really changed. He made a speech of how he loved the 54th, and how he cared about all these men. And then he tears up again, and you could see the way he's speaking is that he's apologizing to me. He's apologizing to the troops, the way he treated them in the beginning, and that to him this is family. Very powerful scene. So the next day, they're on the beaches, Fort Wagner, and I want to say this. I'm going to get into the last slide here, but listen to the music. Okay, James Horner was the composer, and the music is powerful. There's a boys' choir in it, and in this scene here, they're marching onto the beach. And to me, I'm just going to say, if you look at this picture, the fort is to the right, away down the way. And as they're walking, you see on the left, there's white troops, right? Well, the gentleman that, I'm saying gentleman, the white soldier that got in the fight with Denzel Washington is standing there, and Denzel Washington sees him, and kind of glances over to his left, and the white man screams out, "Give him hell, 54!" And powerful scene, powerful. The music, just this guy's going to say something, and to him, it's a thank you and a sorry, because he knows what these men are going to go through at this fort. And when you see the scene, it is really, really tough. So this is them going towards the fort. This is right after that last shot I just showed you, but a cannon shoots off, and Matt, this is very, very, very sad here, but there's actually pretty far away from the fort, there's reporters there. Believe it or not, there was press there, and Matthew Broderick, one of I can't remember the gentleman who played the writer who I guess wrote all this, seeing the battle. He goes up to him and says, "You got a hell of a day," whatever, blah blah blah. And Matthew Broderick says, "If I fall, can you give these to my family?" And then he says, just remember what you see here, right? And I guess the guy who plays that character is probably who wrote a lot of what he saw in this battle, what these men went through. So in this scene, this is pretty, to me, this is very, I get choked up at this scene because in this scene, Matthew Broderick is seeing that he knows that this may be the end, right? And, how many times do we look out at the ocean and it's peaceful, right? It's peaceful. To me, it's peaceful. When I sit on the beach, I look at the ocean and it's peaceful. And you see he's looking at peace right there to me. And the James Horner music, and he knows that this could be the end. And he actually, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead here, but he actually gets off his horse and he smacks his horse and the horse runs away. And then he goes to see the troops and they get ready to battle. He asked if there's a man holding a flag, there's a man holding an American flag there. And he says, if this man should fall, who will pick up this flag? And Andrew Bauer's character, Thomas, says, I will pick up the flag if this man falls. So they get ready. They get ready to battle. They get their bayonets out, and then they start charging the fort. And they didn't know what they were in for, because there were tons of guns there. There were trenches. There were sticks that were sticking up that they had to maneuver. They had to hide in the sand. So in this scene here, this is when they they charge the fort, and they're really getting bombarded. So they have to wait till nightfall, and for the sun to go down so that they could charge the fort at night. So they lay in the sand, and they're just getting bombarded with gunfire, cannon fire. So then Matthew Broderick at night tells them to let's charge. They charge the fort, and in this scene, as they're charging, that there's trenches with water in it, and they're just the other troops are just shooting down at them, just pulverizing them, right? And at this point, the Matthew Broderick's character Shaw stands up and says, 54, and yells, and he gets shot and killed here. And this is the most powerful music in the movie, the charge on Fort Wagner, the James Horner score, which I love listening to. Love listening to because it's powerful, the choir in it, but just knowing this scene, and I do this a lot. When I listen to that music, I think of the scene. I think of it. And when I watched this over and over again. I actually made my son turn around one night and watch it with me when I was grabbing these scenes. But Matthew Broderick gets shot, but Thomas does not pick up the flag. Tripp does, Denzel Washington, and Denzel Washington goes down. So then as he goes down, then they really charge the fort, and the music is just powerful, powerful. So as they're charging the fort, they're shooting back and forth. Men are getting killed. And you really think, and I'm not a history buff. I'm going to tell you that. I am not a history buff at all. But it is, when you watch a history movie like this, it really really makes you think of our world, our country. But this is when they're really battling. And I thought when I first saw this, I'm like, oh God, they're going to take this fort, because I never knew about this. I'm like, they're going to take this fort. And a lot of them are getting shot. And you see Carrie Ellis here charging them on. And this is they're in the fort now. They're in, and they're running along the fort, and the music. I'm just telling you, I'm going to say it over again. Listen to the music and the scene. It is just so powerful. This is when they're really charging. They're charging, and I really thought they were going to make it, and then little did they know, this is the last shot, and you see, and it's almost like it's like a pause, right? And what they're looking at here are cannons just aimed at them, and then in the end, they all perished. You see Matthew Broderick's body get pushed into a trench with colored soldiers, right? And that's, to me, that's a sign there, right? That we're all equal in this world. So I think that was my last slide of Glory. And I go through some of this pretty quick, but there are a lot other powerful scenes in this movie that you would really like, and you would, I really ask you to go back and watch this movie. And the other movies I mentioned in the beginning are good, but to me, Glory is one that you don't see a lot being aired. That I think should be aired on cable or somewhere. But it's just a great movie. And moving on to my next slide, I just want to talk about the score, the album by James Horner. There's a special edition 2 CD album out, which I didn't know about, which I have to get, which because I want to listen to that music. And after like I said, when I listen to the music, I just think of the scene in that movie, and it just, again, powerful. So that's my take on Glory and Memorial Day movies. I just want to I just want to mention to everybody that I just want to remind you that we still do have another channel, and it's Mr. Stan 913. We are continuing our crafts. We're continuing our travel, and I have something up there from Mother's Day that we did on Mother's Day, and our how-to videos. That's not going away. We're going to continue that, but I'm hoping that I can build on this channel and just talk about films, talk about movies. I'm even thinking about, when I go to a movie soon, which I think the next movie we're going to see in the theater is Mission Impossible. I will probably talk about that because I am a big Mission Impossible fanatic. I love those movies with Tom Cruise. But Mr. Stan 913 is not going away. And we will be here. I hopefully be here next week with another episode of the Stano Show. I thank everybody for joining tonight. I see I had a little bit more on here. I'm hoping to build, but again, as always, as I say in all my on Mr. Stan 913, and I'll say on this show, thanks for watching, and see you again soon.